Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining us tonight, folks. I've got some broad beans here, and this is Aquadulce broad beans, and I'm going to be sowing them tonight in these square pots. And these have been filled up with some lightly broken up and then riddled seed compost, and the seed compost I'm using is some clover. And I'm going to sow them into these pots because I want them to become nice young established little plants. And at this stage of the year, being the 1st of February, getting them off to a nice start in some nice pots like this, which have got a decent depth to them, it'll get them off to a nice start, like I say, and it'll just ensure that I've got some nice broad beans to plant out in early March or the start of spring. And I'm going to be planting them tonight with the little button that you see on the bottom of the seed there, pointing downwards, because when you sow the seed, the first shoot comes from this little button that you see on the bottom of the seed there, and this then dives down to the bottom of the pot and starts to produce the little bean plant that I want to grow. So I've already done one in this pot already, and I've took a few photographs, and I'm going to put some photographs on the community page so you can go and take a look at sowing this seed at a closer inspection, and you can see exactly how it is that I'm doing it in both this video and in some photographs as well if you want to. But you can see the little button there on the seed, and it's really beneficial to the seed if you plant it so it's pointing downwards. And to plant them in, I'm just going to simply make a hole with half my finger there to a depth of around about 1.5 inches, and then I'm just going to put the seed with the little button that you see right there on it pointing downwards, and then just push it in gently and then just cover over the top of the seed there. And after I've done this, I'm going to take this drip tray outside, and I'm going to give all of these pots a nice water, and they'll be then off and running. And these I'm going to allow to germinate indoors. And at this stage of the year, being early February, it's still a little bit on the cold side at night. So sowing them and then getting them to germinate indoors just speeds everything up. And then once they've poked through in the pots, I'll then take the whole thing into the greenhouse and allow them to grow on from there. Starting them off indoors and in pots like this is also beneficial because it eliminates the chances of mice and rodents from digging into the pots and stealing the seeds, which is something that can happen with broad beans or other types of beans that you can grow, and also peas and sweet corn as well. But in this instance, we're going to be sowing some broad beans tonight, and the vermin can be an issue. So again, I'm just going to make a hole with my finger there, about 1.5 inches deep, and then just take the seed with its little button and just plant it in so the button is pointing downwards. So that's them three done right there, and I'll just carry on and do the rest of them. So when you water them in, you can either use a fine sprinkle on a hose, or you can use a watering can with a fine hose. But either way, you'll be able to hydrate the pots, and then the beans will get off to a nice start, and they will germinate quite quickly if you allow them to sit in the warmth of the temperature of the house. So there's another one going in right there, and again just making sure that the button is pointing downwards, and I'll just go through the rest of them. So I'll just make some holes there with my finger there, and then we'll get the rest of the seeds planted in. So So again, just making sure that that button on that seed is pointing downwards, and just do the same with all of the other ones. And I'll put a picture of the packet of seeds that I've sowed tonight and the name of them, so you can go and get these seeds yourselves if you so wish, and have a go at these Aquadulce Broadbeans, because they really are a nice variety and they're good producers and good performers, and they produce nice strong bean plants if you allow them to get off to a nice start in pots like this. And there we go, and I'm now just going to cover over the top of all those seeds that I've just sowed there, and then the last thing to do will be to take them outside and give them a water. I'll put a label on after I'll give it a water with the name of the beans and the date, which is the 1st of February 2026. And there we go. So once watered, I might just top off the pots a little bit with some more compost. In fact, I'm just going to go and get some compost right now so I can do that. So if you just bear with us, I'll just go and grab a little bit more soil, and then we'll get some more soil put over the top of these pots here. So here we go. I've just got a little bit more soil that I'm just going to put over the top of all of the containers here, and that'll be them then ready to be watered, and the beans can get off to a nice start. So just going to continue to put a little bit more soil on top of all of these pots. Not too much, just enough so it's nice and even in terms of the soil that's within the pots that you see right here. So again, just gonna level this off so it's looking nice, and just put a little bit more on the top there, and the same with the others. So a little bit more there and a little bit more here. So there we go. And when they've outgrown these pots, I'll get these moved on, and they can then go on to produce some nice broad beans, which will be a really nice crop to harvest in the later part of the year, in later spring, and I'll be able to have some lovely broad beans to pick and to eat. So there we go, that's those now all sown into those pots, and that is it for tonight, folks. I'll update you further on how these broad beans are getting on, but the last thing to do is just to give it a little bit of a water, and then I'll put a little label in one of these pots with the variety and the date on, and that'll be then those beans sown and ready to grow for planting out when they're ready to be planted out. Thanks for joining us tonight, everyone. Happy growing, and I'll catch you again on the next one. Bye for now.